name is Shanicia Harris, and I will be presenting the projected forecast and yield curve rates for the week of Monday, October 28th to Friday, November 1st. Over the course of the week, beginning Monday, October 28th and Friday, November 1st, the entire yield curve rose. It was expected that the short-term security rates would rise more than the long-term security rates because of maturity risk. This says that rates on securities closer to maturity increase more than those farther away from maturity. The increase in rates is a sign of a decreased supply of loanable funds in the treasury markets and also shows little confidence in the integrity of these securities. The increase in yield curve rates means higher forecasted one-year rates over the expectations hypothesis. The forecast projects that one-year rates will rise over the next 30 years. The unsteady rise and fall of the rates is a result of the uncertainty and the moderation of short-term mortgage rates. Going into Monday, there is a slight increase from Monday to Tuesday. On Monday, during the U.S. Treasury bill auction, interest rates on short-term Treasury bills rose from the previous week to 2.2%. The discount rate reflects that the bill sells for less than face value. Also, Washington AP reported that the number of Americans who signed contracts to buy existing homes fell last month to the lowest prices of the entire year. This decline reflects higher mortgage rates and home prices that have made purchases more expensive. Going into Tuesday to Wednesday, there is little movement on the yield curve. In the following Tuesday, a slight decline took place on gas prices as they decreased and is expected to continue to decline throughout the week. With signs of weak economic growth in the fourth quarter of the year, it is unlikely that Federal Reserve will reduce the amount of bond buying purchases. As government bond borrowing remains constant, it is expected to keep interest rates low at 2.25% for the 10-year Treasury bonds. Housing sales are at an all-time low in this week, which realtors believe is due to the drop in consumer confidence. Consumers are less certain about investing their money in buying homes, causing sales to plummet. On Wednesday to Thursday, there is still an increase in the yield curve. On Wednesday, the yield curve rose again as U.S. consumer prices increased. High unemployment and low wages have made it difficult for Americans to pay for most goods, making it hard for retailers to increase their prices. With inflation below the federal government's target, the central bank is less pressured to cut back its $85 billion a month in bond purchases. The intentions of the bond purchases are to keep long-term inflation rates low and stimulate economic growth. However, consumers fear it increases the risk of higher inflation, which would explain the rise in the yield curve. Some prices fell, such as clothing and hotels, while prices for airfare and new cars rose. On Thursday, rates fell only slightly, with the Federal Reserve reporting its continuation of its $85 million bond purchases a month to encourage borrowing and spending. AP says the number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits fell by 10,000 people last week to an adjusted 340,000. This is a sign that employers are laying off only very few workers. Nearly 3.9 million people received unemployment benefits in the week ended October 12th, which is an improvement. Just last year, more than 5 people were receiving unemployment aid. Most economists expect growth for the economy at an annual rate from 1.5% to 2% in the next final 3 months of the year. The biggest change occurred on Friday, where there was a major rise in the yield curve. The European Central Bank fears an expected drop in inflation, which says that the economy is in weak recovery. The drop in inflation shows that demand is weak and people aren't able or willing to risk spending or borrowing, which means sellers cannot raise their prices as much. The EBC decided to make a long-term offer to cheap credit to banks. The EBC began taking deposits when it started buying bonds of indebted countries to lower their borrowing cost. The deposits keep the purchases from increasing the supply of money in the economy and have been allowed to dwindle as the bonds mature. In conclusion, the overall increase in yield curve throughout the week indicated the probability that rates will continue to rise throughout the year.